We are at the stage of weeding the design, and part of the creation of this design included creating um, an initial design to see what it would look like once run through the plotter. We found out that Robbie had to go back and figure out how to design um, the faces so that it could be received better with the plotter. All I'm doing is separating the design from the decal. The design is what we want to have etched on the glass, so the remaining vinyl acts as a stencil. There's some very small cuts here and there. They don't really matter, and actually the vinyl cutter will actually pick it up if it's small enough. The font worked out on this one, and my concern with the font with this previous one, the R has a dot in it with let's see, another A and a P. So letters that have a space in it are kind of prone to pick up with the blade passing by, cutting it. Even with the image at around 2 inches wide, the font is fairly huge and has the details showing through clearly enough for the blade to not pick up the design, and whether it be cutting lines or lifting off vinyl that actually should be staying to act as part of the decal. This R, as an example, is an R that has a dot in it, and there's several ways to go about this. One method is picking up the entire letter and picking out the remaining dot. This kind of work has been done with a dental pick. Anything with a sharp fine point will do. So after lifting off the R, I've replaced the dot back where it lifted off from. So hopefully that becomes much more clearer how the vinyl plotter itself can actually pick up part of the design that should not come in, that should not lift off and stay with the decal. So this A also has a dot in the center, and I'm going to try and lift up the A without lifting up the dot by placing the blade, the point, and trying to make sure that it stays on the backing as I lift up the A. So the letter has been separated with the dot being left behind. And now right now I'm just pressing back the dot where it should be. And we'll continue taking off all the appropriate spaces that the etching cream should go through and etch the glass with, completing the rest of the decal. There's another trick in this decal that we did. The original design simply had a solid black surrounding the text, and that completed the circle. We tried cutting out simply the black areas of the image, and found out that we had to have the edge end as a border as opposed to the edge of the color that surrounded the text. So we added, we came up with a thickness that was, he came up with a thickness and that was appropriate for cutting with the vinyl at this size. And Robbie put a border, an extra border for the vinyl powder to cut out so that the image won't end with the text. So this P also has the dot, and I'll try lifting the letter and leaving behind the dot. This is one of the two techniques I use in separating letters from a decal. You can see that didn't work out too well, and that the dot has lifted off with the P. So from here, I'll just separate it. As long as you don't put too much force at any point of at this stage, none of the vinyl will really stick. And it's fairly easy to move around, even if for instance this dot was misplaced, and I simply just moved it back where it should be, and it's did not harm the design at all. Well, the letters are finished so far. Now this has several connections. There's a lot of lines in this design. And when pulling off the design, you want to make sure you're pulling it off in the correct direction. Pulling off a design in the wrong direction can separate a single piece, and also can grab a piece that's not supposed to be lifting off as well. Similar case to the dots in the letters. They're very thin slivers that are supposed to be left behind, and when I pulled off the decal, there's a piece right here where the vinyl was about to lift off, and while pulling it I just made sure that the direction that I was pulling off would not separate the vinyl. And this is the outer border that we added. As opposed to having the design end with the letters, we decided to have a outer outline, make the whole design complete. And after this comes hinging the piece of glass, hinging this to the piece of glass, and applying the etching cream.